Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. We're continuing this card. We've already made our paper flowers in the previous video. We're now going to make our layers. So stay tuned if you want to see how we do the two sets of layers in this lovely floral card. Okay, back to making this card then. So we're on stage 2 of 3 now. We've made our flowers, we've made our leaves. Now we need to make our layers. So we're going to do a couple of layers. I've got here a general 6x6 piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to be using that. I've also got here a roll of yellow low-tack tape. I can't remember where I got this one, but any kind of low-tack tape will do. And basically I'm going to pull a section off, and then I'm going to rip it in half basically, so that I get a naturally kind of jagged edge. And then what we're going to do is use that to line our card so that we can make an interesting border. So I'm taking my yellow tape and I'm just ripping it down the middle. I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be up and down so that I end up with a kind of jagged edge. So I'm laying that on my cutting mat and I'm lining it up with one of the grid lines. I'm putting it on, but I'm not worrying too much about whether it's level or not. This piece here is going to annoy me because that's a little bit too much. So I'm just going to actually rip that off a little bit. There we go. There we go, that's better. There we go. We want a bit of variation, but not too much. So I'm going to take my sponges again, my smoothies. So remember in the previous video, we used the raspberry and the orange. I'm going to use those same two smoothies and I'm going to use those same two colours. So I've got, again, what did we have? Picked raspberry and spiced marmalade. So I'm going to use the spiced marmalade first, and I'm using the small end of my smoothie, and I'm just going to go along this edge, blobbing the colour down. Then taking my picked raspberry and again blobbing that onto my smoothie and blobbing that onto the edge of the card. So I'm not blending it too well, I'm just leaving the colours kind of sitting there naturally. And when I peel this yellow tape off, you'll see I get quite a nice interesting edge. We're going to repeat that several times, turning the card as we go. Using the same piece of edging, but just moving it around. Actually, I don't want that same exact, so I'm just going to rip a little bit more of that jagged edge off. I don't want it to look exactly the same as if we have just repeated it over and over. There we go. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but again, just use the ink that you've got on the sponge. Don't need to keep refreshing it, to just kind of colour in so that it's not white and basically it's in the same colours as the flowers that we made in the previous video. Right, take that one off and then chuck that in the bin. Pick up the next clean one. So this is the one that we haven't used yet, the other half of the tape that we ripped. And just lay that down roughly again on that first line. So using the orange, don't worry about the corners. The fact that we're overlapping the colour means that it'll have a kind of a square in the corner. That's absolutely fine. We don't need to worry about that at all. And just a little bit more pink there, I think. There we go. And then our last side. And there we go. So again, it's just showing you how to create an interesting edge using a few basic supplies that pretty much every card maker would have in their stash. Just pressing that down, not using up too much ink, just using up pretty much what's on the smoothie. Okay, so there's our edge. Just going to move those out of the way and put my smoothies away. I keep them in a tub, keeps them juicy. Quite often you can actually just use the residue of what's left on them. There we go. So there is our base. So this is going to be our base layer. We are then going to have a layer that sits on top of this, And in the center of that, we're going to have a sentiment, and then we're going to put our flowers around the edge. That way, the flowers will tone in with this border, and we've got our sentiment in the middle. So we need to cut another piece of card. So I'm just going to quickly cut a piece that's smaller than this. So I've cut a piece. This piece is about I think it's about 4 inches. I'm not sure actually. Yeah, about 4 inches. So this piece is 4 inches. It's slightly inside the coloured area. And I need to just erase the pencil mark that I put on here, just to make sure I cut it the right size. But basically you could do this. I mean, this layer can be as big or as small as you want. There's no right or wrong here. So what we need to do is we need to stick our sentiment into the center of this. What we're going to do, we're going to arrange our flowers around the edge. So we're going to have flowers top and bottom of different sizes, some underneath, some on top, probably something like this, maybe 2 at the top, 3 at the bottom, and then some leaves as well. So our sentiment needs to go into the middle. So just move these out of the way, and they are quite delicate, so be careful when you're working with them. So let's just grab our sentiments. I just need to clean this as well, because I've actually got distress oxides on there, which I don't want to get onto the white. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to use this set. This is an All and Create set. It's number 666, which is an interesting number. And I'm going to use this one, Hoping That You'll Bloom Again. It's quite a nice play on, obviously, the floral theme. And it's a card to send, I guess, to somebody who's maybe a little bit down in the dumps or going through something, and encouraging them to, obviously, get back to their normal self. So I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to grab a stamping block from the other side of my desk. This is one I haven't used before. So a little tip, I'm going to give it a spray with some water, give it a wipe with my cloth, just to get rid of any dust or anything that's been left from the production process. I'm then going to just go over it with my thumb. That usually gets off anything, any nasties that are there from the production process. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of an ink with, this is my Onyx Black VersaFine, and then I'm going to do this by eye. This is not, doesn't have to be the most precise thing in the world, because obviously we're going to have flowers top and bottom. So press that down, give it a moment. You'll notice I didn't actually use my stamping platform, so there is a risk. There we go, that's actually came out fine. So I'm going to put that into my ultra-fine clear emboss, just to give it a bit of a shine. You'll see that's not quite in the middle, but that will be fine because some of the flowers at the top are quite large. Using my heat tool, just going to heat that and activate the clear emboss powder, and you'll see the magic. It becomes nice and glossy and slightly raised. Do both sides to stop the card from bending too much. There we go. So this is our middle layer. I'm just going to clean off my stamp and just give that a wipe. There's a really nice set, that set. I'm going to definitely get some use out of that. So this is our kind of middle layer. So we've got our edge that we've just created in the same colours as the flower. Remember, it's the same colour palette, so it all ties in. We've then got this layer that's going to sit on the middle. What I am going to do is I'm just going to go around the edges of this with, again, those same colours so that it all ties in. So back to the smoothies. Make sure your thumb is clean at this point because we have been working with ink. But if in doubt, grab a piece of scrap paper like this and just put that into the middle and then put your thumb on the middle. So I'm just going to use the same pink and orange just to give it a little bit of an edge. That way it ties everything in nicely together. So I'm going around all the way first in the pink, This is the picked raspberry. And then I'm going to go in with the orange as well. And I'm just going over some areas slightly onto the actual card, just so that you get an overall pink and orange. Nothing too precise. So now we're done, you'll see we've got our middle layer. So we're going to mount that. We're going to sit it above. We're going to stick our flowers to that, and then we'll mount the whole thing onto a card blank, and we'll do that in our next video. So the card is building, as you can see. These flowers are going to go here somewhere and here somewhere, and you can see kind of what the project's going to end up looking like. We'll probably do an uneven number, so maybe a couple at the top and maybe 3 at the bottom. I have got various in different sizes, so, and that's one good thing. If you stamp a few in different sizes, you can obviously have a play around. It doesn't look great if they're all the same size, because it starts to just look a bit naff, but we can have a little play with that. I think probably we would have room for one of the larger ones at the top. There we go. So that's our middle stage done. We're kind of ready now to start actually assembling our card, which is what we're going to do in part 3 of the video.